The Smelt and Meld and special talent conversion events just landed in Rise of Kingdoms, and you only get one shot at both of them, so it is extremely important that you don't make any mistakes with these events. And in this video I'm going to share with you guys a couple of different things that you must consider before spending tens of thousands of gems here. And in this video I'm also going to share with you guys why you might want to wait until the very last minute to actually participate in this event, because these events are around for over 6 days at the time of recording this, and really there's no rush to actually do this, but there might be a big advantage to waiting that we'll talk about later in the video. But before we jump in, of course, what's going on, guys? Cheers. Now, as you guys know, I am a sponsored partner created with Rise of Kingdoms, so if you want more Rise of Kingdoms content, consider subscribing down below. You might think you're subbed, but you're actually not. Also, while you're down there, if you appreciate videos that help you save gems, drop a thumbs up and use the hype feature. It helps out the channel a ton. All right, folks, let's start with the Smelt and Meld event, because I personally feel like this event is the one that a majority of players are going to get value out of, because this is the event where you can dismantle legendary equipment and get 100% of your materials back. So if you crafted a piece that you no longer need, maybe it's an accessory, maybe it's a suboptimal meta piece for a particular troop type, you can fix that mistake here. The special talent conversion event, as the name suggests, just lets you switch the special talent on a particular piece of equipment, which is nice for your accessories or maybe for leadership gear, but it's not that impactful for everything else, right? Like there's no world where I'm going to convert my hammer of the sun and moon to anything else, right? Like maybe you'd switch it to leadership in some bizarro wacko world where you're running leadership primary, infantry secondary, which I just don't think people have built their accounts that way. I mean, I know some people are in that situation. I think possibly even Chiskel has one of his armies like that, but that's not the norm, right? And so most people, like, what are you gonna do? You're gonna convert these infantry gloves to something else? Like, no. So let's start with Smelt and Meld, and as you can see at the top here, we have less than a week to actually do this event, and you only can do this one time, which is why it's so important you don't make a mistake here. Now, for some of you, there might only be literally one piece of equipment that you made a mistake on, and then obviously that's the one that you're going to dismantle if you can afford it, the gem cost, of course. But for other people like myself, we actually have a couple of different pieces that are contenders to be dismantled, and so hopefully by me sharing with you guys my example, it'll help put you in the right mindset to make the right choice for your account. Okay, first of all, if we click the little eye up here, it will say dismantling a piece of legendary equipment will return all materials used to forge, refine, or awaken it. Okay, so what this is super important. Actually, I'll talk about that in a second. Let me actually just cover the rest of this here. The other important piece here is each piece of legendary material returned costs 120 gems. Okay, so this is why you want to participate in this event if you have the gems to do so. Okay, because getting back your legendary materials for 120 gems a pop is insanely good value if you've made a mistake. If you haven't made a mistake, then you just don't spend your gems here, obviously, right? Like it's expensive to do that, so you only want to participate here if you made a mistake, and if you did, this is insanely good value. Just as a reminder, legendary materials are 2,400 gems a piece, right? Now you might be saying, okay, well, you know, they're kind of charging us to get our materials back, right? These are our materials, why are they charging us for it? And the answer is that it's not your materials. You don't have those materials anymore, and this is a concept that a lot of people, like, it's easy to fall into this logical trap, but these materials are not yours, right? You don't have these materials, you have Shio's return. So it feels like you're paying gems for your own materials, but what you're actually paying for is a super cheap cost to undo a mistake. Okay, but what if I told you that each piece of legendary material is not necessarily 120 gems? Okay, there are some things that actually change what you might want to do here. Let me share with you guys what my experience is with my own personal account. Okay, I have two contenders to dismantle, the first of which is my tier 5 special talented Shio's return. This is on my 3rd infantry march, which I frankly almost never run. I ran it last KVK, but that was pretty much the only time ever. Besides that, this just sits on my Sunset Canyon Trajan, and it's got the wrong special talent, and I'm really not getting any value here at all, right? In the very extremely rare circumstance where I do use a 3rd infantry march, then I get some value here, but besides that, I really don't get anything. And so getting back 185 materials for that is really enticing. That's really exciting for a piece that I basically basically never use. The other contender here is of course my concealed dagger, because this was decent back in the day, but frankly is not very good right now. And so here I can get 120 materials back for 14,400 gems, right? Of course the Shio's return is more expensive because I'm getting more materials back, but that actually matters. Why does that matter? Well, one thing that you have to remember is that you can dismantle stuff right now for 0 gems. You just don't get the full amount back. So let's see what I would get back from dismantling Shio's return. Right now for 0 gems I can dismantle this and get back 82 legendary materials, and if I dismantle my concealed dagger for 0 gems I will get back 60 materials. Okay, so for 0 gems I get 60 mats, or if I do the event I will get double that, 120 mats, for the cost of 14,400 gems, right? So let's actually pull this into a spreadsheet. You know it's a real Rise of Kingdoms video when we pull out the spreadsheets. Okay, so let's actually just fill this out really quick. So we know that the regular sort of dismantle gets me 60, the event will give me back 120, which means I'm getting a bonus of 60 materials over the regular dismantle, but there is a cost of 14,400 gems. So we can figure out that the gems per material is actually 240. Now that's the real cost, right? I know it says 120 on the event page, but again you have to factor in the case that there's already a way to get back some number of mats from that piece, right? Now if we do the same thing for the boots, you'll see that the outcome is a bit different, right? Remember, I could get 82 by dismantling for 0 gems, or I can get 185 from dismantling through the event right here. Okay, so what that means is I'm actually getting back 103 more materials by going through the event rather than the regular dismantle, right? So then if we factor in the cost of 22,200 gems, that makes the gems per material, actually for me it's actually 216. So in this case I would be better off dismantling the boots through the event, because it's literally fewer gems per material, all things considered, right? I think that's very important. Now there is also one other piece to the puzzle though, and that is that on my Trajan I am probably going to craft purple boots in order to actually put something in that slot, right? Like I know I don't need legendary boots, it's just Sunset Canyon, but like I can throw purple boots on him and put a leadership talent on him. So then I personally, this might not be for you, but I have to factor in what would the cost be to replace the Shio's boots, right? Well, crafting the frost treads, which is probably what I would do, would be 40 purple materials, which is equivalent to 10 legendary materials, right? That's how this works. 4 purples equals 1 legendary. Okay, so that's kind of the conversion there. So if we hop back over to the chart and we change the total number of materials I get from 103 to 93, right? Because I'm getting back 103, then I'm spending basically 10 to replace the legendary boots with the purple boots. The cost stays the same, so my actual gems per material is effectively 238.7. okay, so it's pretty much the same as the dagger for me right now. If you're in a position where you're going to dismantle the Shio's boots and you're not going to replace with anything, then of course you could just skip this step, right? You could skip this bottom part, but for me I am replacing it, and so I do have to factor in the cost of replacing it, and so it ends up being still a little bit cheaper but about the same. So then the question is, okay, well, how do I choose? Do I do the boots, right? Do I dismantle the boots, or do I dismantle the dagger? And the answer is very simple. First, factor in what are you actually losing, right? If one of them is going to cost you a lot more in terms of battlefield for performance, then do the lesser of the evils there. In a case where I'm not really losing anything either way, right? Because either way I can dismantle both, right? Don't forget that I will dismantle one during the event and I can dismantle the other one for free. I'll just get, in the case of the dagger, less back, right? So in that case the correct answer is, all things equal, right? If both pieces are not giving you any value for your account, all things equal, you go with the one that gets you the most number of materials back, assuming you have the gems to actually afford it, right? Assuming you have the gems to do this, that's the correct play, right? You want to get the most amount of value out of this reduced gem per material cost as you can, because you can only do this one time, right? So imagine in another way, right? Like let's say that Rise of Kingdoms decided that in the VIP shop for 7 days only, there was legendary materials for 120 gems apiece. You would want to buy as many of them at 120 as you can to get the maximum amount of value for that discounted rate, right? And so in the same exact way, you would pick the one that gets you the most amount of materials back if the gems per material are basically equal, right? So for me, the correct play is the boots. Even if I replace them with the purple boots, the frost treads, I still am walking away with more materials, more legendary materials at the end of the day. 93 versus 60. Yes, it costs me more, but I can actually afford to do that. I have the gems on my account to actually do that. So getting more legendary materials at a discount is better than getting less materials at a discount, even though the gems per material is the same. Hopefully that makes sense to you guys. It's kind of common sense, but there's, you know, a lot to think about with this event just to make sure that you don't kind of make any mistakes here. Okay, so now that we've concluded, for me, the best thing to do would be to dismantle the legendary boots. Why am I not going to do it right now? And why am I going to wait 6 days to do it? Okay, maybe 5.5 days. Well, I'll explain that in just a second, but first I want to talk about the special talent conversion event. Okay, because this is of course another event that came around at the same time, and this is another event that some people might be able to get some good value out of. Now, like I said at the beginning of this video, this event is mainly for the whales who have multiple special talents on their accessories and they feel that they've made a mistake with that, they want to move it to something else. Or if you've got, you know, leadership gear that is special talented for infantry and you want to make it archers, for example, like you could move one piece, so maybe it's the legs or maybe it's the boots or something like that, this would be the time to do it, right? But just like the dismantle event, this is only something you can do one time, right? So again, in the case of somebody with leadership gear, they may have preferred that you could do this more than once, right? So that's why this event I think is a little less exciting unless you have a lot of different accessories that you want to move around. Okay, but there's something extremely important that you have to know about this special talent conversion event, and this was actually brought to my attention by Cortex over on Discord. So hopefully Cortex does not mind me sharing these screenshots. Of course, Cortex is another Rise of Kingdoms content creator, so huge shout out to Cortex. This is very important that people know this. Okay, here you can see that in order to convert the special talent of their cavalry horn of fury, it will cost 50,000 gems. But if we take a look at the special talent conversion for their infantry horn of fury, it is 31,000 gems. Okay, now both of these are special talented horns, level 3 iconic. Why does one cost 50,000 and why does the other cost 31,000? And the answer must be that one of these accessories was crafted and got the special talent on craft, and the other one was refined multiple times in order to get there, right? And the reason that I've kind of come to that conclusion, others have assumed the same thing, is because if we go back to the sort of the Smelt and Meld event here, you'll see that for this event, the cost of dismantling is dependent on right here the materials used to forge, refine, or awaken, right? So the more materials that you used, the more it will cost. And most likely that is the same for the special talent conversion, right? Now they don't explicitly say that here, but it does say depending on the strength of your equipment, converting special talent costs various amount of gems. Okay, so what is strength, right? Well, clearly two of the exact same accessory have the exact same strength, so it's not strength, it must be the more materials that were used to craft it and get it to its current level, the more it will cost you to swap to a different special talent, right? And we can kind of see the same thing on my own account even, because this Warhelm of Hellish Wasteland, I got the special talent on craft, whereas the Gold Helm of the Eternal Empire, I had to refine it to get it to that level, right? And so this cost 13,000 to convert and this cost 25,000. That doesn't make any sense considering if we take a look in the blacksmith, those helmets cost the same amount of materials to craft, right? It's 60 for both of these helmets. I know it's different materials, but it's all the same, right? It's all the same value. So that must be the answer, right? That has to be the case. Same thing with the gloves here. These gloves, I got the special talent on craft, whereas these gloves I had to refine it, right? Same thing with my archer chest piece. I got this on craft, whereas this I had to refine it, right? And so the reason I'm telling you this is because if you are going to convert the special talent of an accessory and you've got multiple of them, then you should go through and pick the one that is literally the cheapest, right? Like that would make the most sense. I mean, unless, you know, you don't want your horn on your archers specifically, then you're gonna have to pay whatever the cost is, right? Like in the case of Cortex, if they really wanted to get rid of their cavalry horn and not their infantry horn, well then tough luck, you got to spend an extra 19,000 gems, right? Which is crazy. Now luckily cavalry and with combo attacks, you probably like would rather have the horn on your calves over your infantry, although really like you want it on both, like let's be honest, right? So in this case you would probably just go with whatever one's cheaper and convert that to whatever you want, right? I don't know what Cortex would possibly be converting here, right? I mean, obviously he might want an archer horn, but I feel like archer horn is the least desirable horn right now at the time of recording this, just because Emperor Qin doesn't need one. That doesn't mean that you won't want one eventually, right? So I'm not saying you shouldn't do that, but anyway, I'm digressing here at this point. I just wanted to bring this up to you guys. Pay close attention to the cost of actually converting the special talent here, because it does actually matter. Now with all of that being said, what am I going to convert, right? I've got lots of special talents here. Well, like I said earlier in the video, really there's no point in converting anything other than accessories. And honestly, like, would I rather have this accessory on archers? Yes, right? I'd rather have an archer special talent Ring of Doom than an infantry special talent Ring of Doom, purely because Emperor Qin doesn't need a horn, right? So Emperor Qin can run the skill damage pendant and the Ring of Doom. That's best in slot. Whereas for infantry, you might prefer to run a horn plus the greatest glory, right? However, we're kind of splitting hairs here, right? Like it is technically the right play right now, but like there's really no actual downside for me keeping this Ring of Doom on infantry, because Sun Tzu Prime is extremely strong. He will continue to be extremely strong for a long time. The Ring of Doom will continue to be very good on Sun Tzu Prime, so it's not worth 23,000 gems for a micro optimization for me, right? In fact, for a lot of players, I'm not super convinced that the special talent conversion is a must do compared to the dismantle, right? Where if you did make a mistake, it's definitely worth getting those materials back, no questions asked. When it comes to special talent conversion, it is more of a trade-off, right? So it really depends. For some players it's going to matter a lot, for other players it won't. And really, like the special talent conversion, like I said, this is for those heavy spending players that have tons of special talents on accessories and they just don't know what to do and they want to make a micro optimization. That's for them, right? For free-to-play players, low spenders, you might not even have any special talents on accessories, and so like this event is really not going to do much for you unless, like I said, you've got leadership gear. So for me, with both of these events in game right now, my current game plan is I'm going to use the event to dismantle my Shio's boots, right? Then I will probably at some point go ahead and just regularly dismantle my concealed dagger, because I will be using all of the materials that I get back to either craft a Kurok's war drums or a pendant of eternal night. I haven't really decided yet. I'm leaning towards the pendant of eternal night. That's just me. Not to say that war drums are bad. In fact, war drums are quite good, but right now I just feel like giving another bump to my Emperor Qin, especially with Wedge 2 that just came out and with archers right around the corner, like it seems like a good idea to focus on archers right now and bumping up that archer march, whereas the Kurok's war drums would go on my second cavalry march, because combo damage will proc this more often. That is something that maybe at some point I will do, but right now I feel like improving my one archer march is better than improving my second cavalry march, even though technically Kurok's war drums will affect all my marches. Honestly, my second cav march dies super fast anyway, so it's like the pendant just feels like a little bit of a safer craft for me right now, again, especially with archers around the corner. If we do get something that pairs insanely well with Emperor Qin, like why would I leave this damage on the table, right? Like that's kind of what I'm looking at. That being said, I am getting a lot of people asking me what accessories should they prioritize right now, and I think the answer is Horn of Fury is exceptionally good, the Greatest Glory is also quite good, and the Ring of Doom is very good as well. If you're running 6 or 7 marches, you should definitely have at least one Kurok's war drums, if not more than that. And really the pendant of eternal light is only for Emperor Qin. Everything else is more of a niche role. And another question that I've gotten also is what's better, Greatest Glory or Ring of Doom? And the answer kind of depends on your account. I did the math on this a while ago to share with you guys what is actually better, and on paper Ring of Doom is better. also in longer fights Ring of Doom is better, and also for rally garrison Ring of Doom is typically better as well. But the Greatest Glory does have a couple of advantages, even though the average damage bonus is technically lower. For shorter fights, Greatest Glory is better, and I think that is like the number one thing that people can't ignore, right? Like right now we are still in a meta, maybe not as much as last year, but we're still in a meta where hit and run is a thing, right? You're sticking to your target only for a few seconds before you're retreating or your enemy is retreating, right? And so having Greatest Glory is just, it's always on, it always works, you're always getting the average damage bonus, whereas with the Ring of Doom it might proc and then you miss out on some of the turns. So while the average might technically be higher, it might actually be lower if you're connected to the target for fewer turns. On top of that, sometimes the Ring of Doom might proc and you don't cast an active skill, whereas the Greatest Glory will always be active for every active skill, right? So really, like, what you want is to boost or give bonuses to your active skills more than anything, because that's where a majority of your damage output comes from. The Ring of Doom is only active for 2 turns when it procs, and if those 2 turns are just regular basic attacks, then it's like, okay, yeah, it's something, but you'd rather have had those 2 turns with your active skill, right? And so it's kind of like, it's RNG to proc it, and then it's also RNG if it's on the correct turns, right? If it is on the active skill turns, well then you got a mega boost, right? But the Greatest Glory is just more consistent. So for that reason, I think practically the Greatest Glory for infantry is probably a safer craft for open field PvP than the Ring of Doom, right? For cavalry it actually changes because the probability that you proc Ring of Doom actually goes up with combo attacks, and even farther if you have something like causative or butterfly effect. So you might prefer the Ring of Doom for open field cavalry, but really, like, if you would prefer Ring of Doom over Greatest Glory for cavalry, it's not by much, right? Like, if we're being honest. So that's kind of how I'm feeling about it, right? So if you're trying to decide between these two for infantry and you're only doing open field, Greatest Glory might be the play. If you do rally garrison, then you definitely have to consider the ring, because it works in both scenarios. It works for open field and it works for rally garrison, and it works nice for rally garrison because those are longer fights, so the average damage is gonna, you know, kind of even out a little bit more. So that's kind of my 2 cents on that, right? The other thing too is, of course, Korok's War Drums. You probably want to put this on cavalry because of combo attacks, and that's pretty much it. Really, Horn of Fury I think is probably the best accessory in the game still right now, because it is just universal for everything, and active skills are just getting stronger and stronger and stronger, right? And so the more you cast them, the better you'll do. And so Horn of Fury is, that's what Horn of Fury does, right? With all of that being said, okay, why did I say earlier that you might want to wait until the last minute to actually do these events? Because that's a big point, right? You don't lose anything by waiting, right? Unless of course you've got like Kingsland tomorrow or something, or later this week, then yeah, okay, maybe you would want the advantage there. But the reason that you might want to wait is because, like I've said time and time again, new archers are right around the corner, and typically we hear about new commanders approximately 2 weeks before they land into the game. And so if we're expecting archers by the end of the month, which by the way, the devs have not confirmed that, right? Like, they're going to arrive in the game when they're going to arrive, when they're ready, right? So it might not be this month, right? I think on average it's most likely to be this month, but it might not be. Okay, however, if we assume it will be this month, then we might hear about new archers at any point in time now. And so if we hear about new archers and it's like, oh my god, this new archer commander is going to be so good with Horn of Fury, but you had already converted your special talent Horn of Fury to infantry, then you might have made a mistake, right? And you might be kind of regretting that decision, and you wish that you had kept that special talent Horn of Fury on your archers, because you're going to want it when that new archer comes out, right? That's just an example of one thing. Even with the Smelt and Meld event, right? Like, imagine that, and I know I'm like kind of reaching here, but like, imagine the next archer commander says, if the enemy is suffering from a health debuff, you deal 50% more skill damage, right? Like, it could be something completely out of the woodworks that we never can predict, right? And so in that scenario, like, yeah, you would want the concealed dagger on that march to keep a health debuff on that target at all times, so that way you're getting the benefit of that new archer. Right now, again, that this is all speculation, okay, and like, frankly, it's very unlikely that a mechanic like that lands on the new archers, right? But it's a non-zero chance, and you lose nothing by waiting, right? Unless Kings lands tomorrow, you lose nothing by waiting. And so what I would recommend is wait as long as you can, in case we learn about new archers, or we learn about something else in a face-to-face with the developers about the next formation, or like, there's no downside to waiting, right? Unless you've got a fight, there's no downside to waiting. You might as well wait till the very end of this event. Everyone only gets one dismantle, everyone only gets one special talent conversion. Whether you do it now or you do it in 5 days, it doesn't matter, right? So you might as well wait in case we get more information about what the next whatever's coming down the pipeline actually is, whether it's archers, formations, whatever. Really, the only risk to waiting is that you forget about it and you don't do it, and that would be horrible. Okay, so if you don't want that to happen, I would say maybe set a reminder in your phone or something to like remind you, okay, in exactly 5 days from now it'll pop up and say, hey, do your smelt and meld, do your special talent conversion. Like, you don't want to take this advice and then forget to do it. That would be horrible. Okay, so I'm warning you now. Okay, don't come back to this video and say, Omni, I waited because of you and I forgot to do it and I missed out on it. No, 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 no. I'm telling you right now, set a reminder in your phone. Don't forget to do this, but you probably should wait just in case. Okay, there's no downside to waiting, and if you don't want to wait, that's fine as well. If you're afraid you're gonna forget, just do it. Okay, but that's why I'm gonna wait. I'm just gonna hold off for a couple of days. I'll think about it a little bit more, right? There's nothing that I can do with these events that would make or break my account anyway, so even if we start fighting, I'm fine. I don't need whatever I get here. And also, the benefit of this being around for 6 more days is if you're free to play low spender, you could, you know, take some time to try to get as many gems as possible, and maybe if you've got enough gems, then you could participate right at the very end. But that's pretty much it, guys. If you made it to the end of this video, please consider dropping a thumbs up on it. It really does help out YouTube videos a ton, and if you haven't already, try out the brand new hype feature. That also helps out channels a ton. And I'm gonna remind you guys, I'm still on the road to 100,000 subscribers. We are so close, so double check down below to see if you are subscribed. You might think you are, but you're actually not. Anyway, with that being said, thank you so much for watching. This has been Omniarch. I'll talk to you guys again soon. Peace.